Alright everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today I'm going to do the second episode of Connor Composes. Today I've got a bit of an idea that I'll play in a second, and what I want to hopefully show all of you is how I go about adding layers and possibly a melody as well. Let's see what happens. I don't really know what's going to happen, but I have an idea. So let's dive right in and let's get writing some music. So today I'll be using my 2017 Bowden original, and it has Ragnaroks in it, in this lovely sort of red and black bobbin, which I think makes the guitar look really loud. I kind of like that though. So yeah, I've got this in drop C. I don't really write in drop C, which is why this idea actually came about as well. So let's just dive right in. So today's idea is super simple. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I really like the vibe of it. It's just over whatever the string is in drop C. That'll be a G, right? So I have this A minor. Sorry, I'm so used to just talking in like standard 6-string terms, which is probably what I'm gonna continue to do. So we just got this thing over A minor 7, and then so really simply, and then by extension you could have, you know, all that sort of stuff going on. So what I'm going to do is mess around with it and build a bit of what I would describe as like a verse in any one of my songs that I would write. So let's start by just tracking that and having that as our little intro. So let's dive right into it. Oh, and before I forget to explain, I'm using Nolly X in this video. I'm using one of his OG presets, Ambient Breakup. It sounds as you've already been hearing. It sounds lovely. So that's what we're rolling with. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna have like this mini break, just like this space here where I can build like a little bit of ambience and texture. Obviously there's loads of ambience in that guitar tone, but I mean out wider. I can use different guitar parts and you'll see hopefully what I mean if it works. And then we'll go into the main groove. Yeah, let's just do that, okay? So I'm gonna just bounce that again and then, yeah. Yeah, that sounds pretty cool. And then I want Atmos 1. Sounds pretty good. What I want to do is just track that sort of main chord thing that I've been doing, like left and right. Cool, so now that that is done, I'm just going to add some drums, and today's drums are P5, and I'm using the really pingy high tune snare. And the rest of the kit is pretty normal. And I'm also Franken-kitting it a little bit. I've got P4's hi-hat, the splashes, the X-hat, as well as the inverted stack and the extra right crash from P4. So I've got loads of cymbals going on, but that high tune snare sounds great. So I'm gonna write something that comes in here, and then the second time round the whole thing with the chord sort of extend higher, I'm gonna change the groove a bit. So let's get stuck in, and once I've written some sort of groove that we can listen back to, I'll explain some of the mixing that I've done as well, because I'm aware last video I didn't do any of that. So this video, I'll do a little bit of it, just so you can see why things sound the way that they sound. So let's get stuck right in. I always write with the piano roll with mouse and keyboard, and we're just gonna get right in there. And this is all experimentation. Nothing's right, nothing's wrong. So just feel it out. Try and listen for the kick and the snare placement first, and then add your little twiddly cymbals, whatever you want. So I usually like kick around 105. Okay. I'm thinking, whoa. Okay. And then snare for me, I usually like, whoa, this is gonna be good. Yes, I have such a good idea. Okay, I know what I'm gonna do. Stick with me. So I'm gonna do something like this for the first time through. Probably. Yeah. Ooh, I think, what's 100? Yeah. Ooh, too much. I don't really want... What I'm going to do next is just start adding the cymbals. I'm pretty happy with that kick and snare placement, the double kick thing going on. I'm just going to reduce the velocity of these two by a little bit. I think I'm just going to... Yeah. So first time I'm going to remove that kick. Second time through I'll probably add it in with the additional notes on the guitars. Oh. Oh, maybe that instead. And it wouldn't be a prog drum groove without hi-hat chicks. It's holding time throughout the whole thing. Yeah, so here, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna change things up so that the kick and snare are more like just straight feel rather than trying to follow the rhythm of those chords. So what I'm gonna do is, yeah. So let's talk about the mix of the drums really quick. So as I said before, I'm using P5 and we've got a drum bus. So all of the drums are going into this bus. We're going through, you know, pretty famous distressor, and this is from UA. So this is the Spark version. So doing a little bit inspired by Nolly, his settings, and then mixing in the compressed amount just a little bit. So you can see that here on the mix. So let's just listen to the drums, and I'll take this off and then on, and then I'll try and go through things pretty quickly so we're not here for like an hour and a half. But yeah, I think this is a pretty important part of this snappy sound in this drum mix. So first on, then off, then back on. So obviously there's a bit of a volume lift, so it's not exactly a fair comparison, but you do get more life out of the drums and the cymbals, and especially the snare is getting clamped down, and it's bringing out more of a pop. And then we're going through a Neve, which is just a little bit of EQ on the low and the high. And what is this? Oh, just cutting any subs that might come through. And then that is going to the instrument bus. So the drums from there are going into this instrument bus. And on here is a tape machine. So everything's going through this. Just got a little bit of a high-end lift at 8K, 16K, 0.5, 1.1 dB. And then again, just everything is getting subs cut here. So what we're doing is just taming some of the mid-range and 2.5K. And we're going through my favorite bus compressor. This will probably make more sense once the mix has been built a bit more. But these settings, what I've been using for ages, ever since I got Spark, I have been in between 3 and 4 on the ratio. I kind of wish there was a 3.5 to 1 ratio on this compressor. I like the 4 for more punchy mixes. I like the 3 for probably like my album and other mixes as well. But 4's quite fun, I think. So the whole mix is going to go through this. I'm looking for about, you know, between 2 and 3 dB reduction on the snare hits when everything is going through this. Obviously, we don't have everything in here right now. We've just got 2 guitars and the drums. So it should be about hitting it a little bit. So let's see. And just so you can hear how much this compressor is doing, I'm going to turn it off and then put it back on. Sounds great. And from there, we're going into a master bus, which just has the God particle on it, which is a new plugin that I picked up. I've been playing around with it on the master bus, just adding a little bit of that secret sauce. Well, not so secret, but you know what I'm saying. Gain is just trimming the volume a tiny bit. Then it hits flatline 2. And then we've got Logic stock limiter, just in case anything for some reason gets past flatline 2. We've got that going on. I'll turn that on later when we get a fat volume boost, and then I'll give you all a warning to turn the volume down. But for now, we're just hearing the mix bus, and then we're tracking into the mix bus itself. So let's move on to the snare and the kick and some of the other individual parts of the drums, and then quickly add some more guitar layers, and then also bass, and then maybe a melody. So let's get going. So the kick sounds like this. So the kick sounds pretty nice. It's the P5 kick, and I'm going to take everything off and then turn it all back on, and you can sort of hear what's happening. The EQs are probably the biggest thing here, the first 2. So let's just go from there. Man, that oxide tape machine with the 15 IPs and then the EQ push up to the higher end boost is so good on kick and bass as well, actually. So that's kick. So this is what the snare sounds like with everything on. Let's hear what the raw snare sounds like and build it up from there. The snare sounds so f***ing good on this library. Right, so let's add these EQs. Sounds so poppy, pingy as well, and there's a little bit of reverb on this as well. The toms, I'm honestly not doing all that much to them. I'm just doing the typical sort of insane metal curve. Let's find, do I do it? Even use tom? So here I'm just doing the standard thing where you cut all the mids out and then boost the high end. I'm actually using the 176 compressor here. Just a little bit more vibe. It's kind of the predecessor of the 1176. I mean, I only use them twice in this groove that I've just written. Cymbals. So yeah, the cymbals are pretty cool. Like I'm using Soothe just because makes sense. I'm using Smash and Grab as well with a low mix around 30% and a couple of EQs as well. So that is the overheads and they sound like this. Okay, so let's just turn everything off and then we'll go from there. And finally, the room, pretty simple on this. I'm not even compressing it. I'm kind of taking inspiration from Nolly again, using the transient master instead of a compressor to do this, sort of pushing the transient of the snare to kind of extend out and embellish that sort of room sound and make it a little bit longer. The biggest difference here is when I turn this off, it's going to sound really close, and when I turn it back on, it's going to be sort of like super wide, almost like having a bigger reverb on the room. With it on first and then I'll turn it off. Awesome. So that's the drums, and that's the instrument bus as well. Hopefully that was a little bit more interesting than the last video. I know I didn't cover any of this in the last video, and this is just a quick mix that I sort of use for demos. So if you like how this sounds, feel free to recreate it. Okay, what I'm going to do next is track bass, and I'm going to try and do bass with fingers. I know last video I think I said I don't usually play bass with fingers, but it sounds so cool. So what I'm going to do is pretty simple. I can already hear I just want to hold this open whatever string and kind of go from there and see if there's any little moments I want to add a small run in. But for now, let's just grab the bass and let's just get to it. So for this kind of sound, I'm going to do both pickups on the bass. Just a little disclaimer as well. These strings aren't super new, so the bass probably sounds a little bit darker than what you're probably used to, but I'm running through the Dark Glass plugin, so there's no distortion on this. I'm just using it for a little bit of flavor and EQ. So without it, sounds like this. Again, I'm terrible at playing bass with my fingers, but I like how it sounds, so I'm trying to get better. And then this was with it on. Let me just turn everything off, and then you can hear the DI. Still pretty nice. So all I'm doing there is scooping some of the mids and pushing that shimmery sort of like high end just a tiny bit more. And then let's see if I can get something decent. It's not terrible. It's not terrible. There's going to be a melody over it. What I'm going to do is copy paste, because it's going to be the same thing. Maybe just change the tail. I'll punch that in. But because I'm absolutely awful at bass, I'm going to just nudge these notes so they're bang on with the kick. So it all sounds like a bit better. Oh, maybe we just change this. By the way, what I'm using for this gain tone is parallax, and I've got a custom IR, but it's not too much gain. It's actually pretty normal amount of gain. The gate's quite high, but that's fine. And yeah, it's actually hitting the 176 before it gets there. Oh, a lot actually. Let me just let me turn that down. Yeah, that's better. Yeah, that's a bit better. So it's hitting the compressor. You can hear the more it hits the compressor, the more gain. And then it's going straight into parallax. And then we're doing a little bit of EQ. And then a bit more EQ. Bit more. And then, sorry for the bass playing once again. And then finally into double tap. And just FYI, on the bass, I do have the active mode on, but the EQ is basically doing nothing. So in passive, it sounds like this. And then active. Tiny bit more high end, just on the clack of the note, but that's about it. So I'm gonna change what the bass is doing on this second time through to sort of add to add to the groove a bit and this new kick pattern that I've got going on. So let's just see what's happening. Yeah, let's do something like that. Jacob Kaminski is here. Let's do some guitar layers. That's kind of cool, whatever this is. Let's add some actual like atmospheric stuff going on. So let's get the bonus thing going. That'll work. I usually like to do like a bit of a harmony, so let's figure that out. I think I'm gonna have the layers come in the second time. So simple, but it's just what it needs. That is just the biggest takeaway you can have from this video. Sometimes you just got to do what it needs. So I think it's going pretty good so far. What I'm going to do now is write a little bit of a melody just to go over the top of what's happening. It's going to have to be a little bit sparse just because there's so much going on already. I really like the first half. Yeah, and then we're just gonna go from there. So what's gonna happen now is the track is gonna get a heck of a lot louder. But I wanna show you what the God particle is doing. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take God particle on and off, and you can hear that it's sort of widening the mix as well as like saturating it, a little bit of harmonic distortion. It's not doing loads, like I could push it to 200% and it would get insane. But it's just, you know, giving it a little bit of that spice. Probably a tiny volume lift as well, which is why I have that gain after it to compensate. But this is with it off and then I'll put it on. So let's just take one quick listen to the entire thing and then I think we're done. Just made a tiny little change to the guitars right there, but I think that's it. Thank you so much for watching this week of Connor Composes. I'm happy with what I wrote today. I wasn't expecting to push it in such like a modern proggy sort of fusion vibe, but I kind of like what I came up with. It's not exactly something I would write for like body of work these days, but it's super fun to kind of experiment with layers using only guitars and trying out a melody that might be a little bit strange or angular. And yeah, I mean, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope to see you all in the next one, and I'll catch you guys soon. See you in a bit.